Hello and welcome to my video on how to have a fun League 2 career mode in FIFA 21. We're going to be beginning with some fun rules, and then we're going to finish off with the best teams that you can use and some brief guidelines or some brief challenges that you can try and complete with these teams. Let's start with the teams you can pick. This is Barrow's first season at League 2 for almost 40 years, so the challenge is keeping them above the relegation zone. Also are probably the biggest name in League 2 at the moment. They used to be in the Premier League and have played in Europe as recently as 2008. Because of financial issues, they've dropped down the league, at one point resulting in them only having 10 players. Bradford are another team that got relegated from the Premier League due to financial issues. It's been almost 20 years since they were last in the Premier League, and they have one of the most unique kits in the whole of English football. They have one of the biggest stadiums in the league and also one of the biggest fan bases. Their biggest rivals, Leeds, have just made it to the Premier League, so maybe it's time for Bradford to join them. Crawley had one of the richest owners in English football a couple of seasons ago, but since then they've dropped back down to League 2. They're one of the smallest teams in the league, but they have potential to get back into League 1. Next up we have Exeter. They've been in the playoffs 4 times in the last 4 seasons and have lost on each occasion. This is the poorest record of all English teams. Next up we have one of the most uniquely run teams in English football, Forest Green. They're fully vegan, fully eco-friendly, and are focused on being the most green team in English football. Their football ground is made of reclaimed materials and is covered in grass and soil to help with insulation. Their target is mainly just to be an eco-friendly team. In England, Grimsby is mainly known for catching all the fish that we eat in our fish and chips. They're a Lincolnshire town, and their rivals Lincoln are much better than them at the moment. As well as Scunthorpe in the league, Lincoln could do with a second team higher up than League 2. Harrogate Town have just been promoted from the National League. You might know them from Cutsy's Youth Squad Legends series, and they have the smallest budget and the smallest squad in the league. Leyton Orient used to be in the League 1 playoffs regularly. They had a spot of financial issues due to an unusual chairman, but since they had a spell in the National League, they're back up to League 2. They've got an average squad but a fairly decent budget. Mansfield Town have just appointed Nottinghamshire legend Nigel Clough as their manager. They've got a strong connection with local team Nottingham Forest, so Nigel Clough coming in will only strengthen this. Can you get Mansfield back to the Premier League before Forest manage it? Make them the pride of Nottingham for the first time in their whole history? That's the challenge here, and I think they're well set up to do it with the largest budget in the whole of the League 2. Next up we have Morecambe, who are celebrating their 100th anniversary as in existence. They've not had much success in the past, but maybe it's time for it to reach the Seasiders. Newport have managed to play in Europe while still playing in League 2 in the past. They went bust and they've been refounded since, but they've got a chance they can do it again if you manage to win the FA Cup or the League Cup. The next team we're going to have a quick talk about is Salford City, who have managed to rise up the leagues thanks to their billionaire owner and their other very famous owners, David Beckham, Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes, the Neville brothers and Brian Giggs. With that much talent in the boardroom, hopefully you can find a way to get that talent onto the pitch. They want domestic success and they don't really need anything else thanks to the backing of their owners. So there's very little pressure if you can get them promoted. They're uniquely set up thanks to the strength of the other Manchester clubs to have rivals if you do manage to get to the Premier League. Now we have Scunthorpe United. They were the second biggest team in Lincolnshire, with Lincoln City playing in the League 1 playoffs at the moment. Can you get Scunthorpe back to the Championship, which they played at in less than 10 years ago, before Lincoln City can manage to get there? You have chance for some good rivalries with Grimsby and Lincoln while managing to get up the leagues, as well as Hull, who are fairly local as well. Finally we have Stevenage, where I have probably the most outlandish challenge of them all. Jack Wilshere and Lewis Hamilton are both from Stevenage. If you create one of these to be your manager profile, can you try and emulate how successful they were in their own careers and bring this level of success to Stevenage? They've not really had too much to shout about, and they don't expect much this season. They have one of the poorest squads in the league and a fairly good transfer budget, so there's plenty of room to play this one however you see fit. Rules for a League 2 Road to Glory, in my opinion, are fairly up to you. My personal advice is keep it challenging. Don't buy anyone who's over 64 rated. You can use any potential, but I would never really train someone who is 64 rated or up to get even better, because I think you don't really find many low 70 rated players in the league. And then each time you get promoted, you can unlock a new level of player, so you can have 68 rated players in League 1 for example, or 74 rated players in the Championship is my general rule. For youth scouting, it's probably most realistic to have a single 1-star scout who's only scouting England, but I suppose you could justify 3 1-star scouts if you go to Scotland or Wales or Northern Ireland or Republic of Ireland, which shouldn't let you have too many outstanding youth players. I don't think the youth scouts are quite as overpowered on FIFA 21 as they were in 20, where even a 1-star could find potential world beaters. Transfer wise, I think it's best if you only focus on the English leagues for player transfers and loans for the first couple of seasons until you're in the Championship, and then once you're in the Championship, focus on European leagues. You won't really find many South American wonder kids playing in League 2 or League 1, but occasionally you do find a Scandinavian or a French player or an Iberian, which if you can justify that being a 1 or 2 of those in your squad, then fair enough, I think. Unlike the MLS video that I made, you don't need to do any crazy rules with scouting or keeping budgets under a certain amount. There is a vague salary cap that's in League 2, but again, this isn't modelled in FIFA, and it's more of a keep the player salaries to an acceptable level based on your income, which again, that's up to you, but I wouldn't spend more than £5,000 a week on one player. If you do ever want to sign a high rated player, I would go for someone who's in their late 30s. That's something that you do see in League 2 and League 1 especially. You'll see someone like Kevin Nolan or Hector Davids drop down, and they're clearly physically not at their peak, but technically they're very good for the level. Signing someone like Jamie Vardy, of course, isn't very realistic unless he's in his late 30s rather than his early 30s. But signing someone who is getting on and is fairly slow and reasonably high reputation, I would say, someone like Jermaine Defoe might eventually return if you're playing as Sunderland in League 1. That might be fairly realistic, but I would recommend you try and mainly focus on late 20s of around 62 to 64 rating if you want to keep League 2 a challenge. As you can imagine with its reputation, English lower league football is mainly about physicality, so if you're getting strong and fast players, you're going to be at a huge advantage. You can see this in Cutsy's lower league career mode. A lot of his players, they grow physically pretty fast, and as soon as they do, his ability to beat better teams is much higher. Overall, I think League 2 is a very fun career mode, especially if you're doing a Road to Glory where you try and take a team to the Premier League. In terms of realism for a Road to Glory, I think Bolton is your best choice. They're at the absolute pit of their powers right now. I can't see them going much lower, but with 1 or 2 signings, such as Zach Clough from Nottingham Forest, he would be fairly realistic for them. They could get up the leagues pretty quickly. They have a reasonably big stadium, and they've got quite a lot of fans. The only issue is money, but if you can manage to sell players for more than they're worth, or if you manage to set up a youth academy that's regularly producing stars, that should resolve most of these issues. So that's my full opinion on why you should start a League 2 Road to Glory. They're the most fun you'll have in FIFA, they're the biggest challenge, and maybe you'll meet a name or two that you've heard of in the past, such as this man on screen right now. Thank you for watching, and if you could, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe, but you don't have to. I'll be making more videos like this in the future, but for now, thank you for watching, and goodbye.